Welcome to That 80 Show. Get your festival passes, get your Wellingtons, and be prepared to poop into a bucket. We're going to Glastonbury. How are you, Dori?
Wow. If I didn't want to go before, I certainly don't want to go now.
Oh, but Glastonbury's not that thing anymore, though.
No, I'm too old now. I'm too old. Yeah. No. You know what? Friends of mine went when we were at university. 2 friends of mine went, and they had the time of their lives. They watched Nick Cave playing soccer with his son. Like
at Glastonbury or just in general?
At Glastonbury. Like they somehow managed to swindle some backstage passes because we were involved with campus radio, and they were like, oh, we're coming from South Africa. They managed to swindle some backstage passes, and backstage, like in the backstage area, Nick Cave was playing soccer with his son. And they've told that story many times. You know, it's like one of the greatest moments of their life. And they just had the most incredible time. But they said they were literally mud cakes the entire time because it rained so much. And I was like, I wasn't jealous even back then, and I certainly would not want to do it now. Like, I'll watch the clips on YouTube.
But what a glorious time when saying, hey, we're from South Africa actually like got you into places instead of hide away the nice things. They're here.
I mean, imagine this was the early 90s. So Mandela had been released. South Africa was the sweetheart of the world, you know.
They loved us. So much potential. They loved us. So I mean, listen, I'm not a festival person. I've never been to a festival. I don't like I just feel I'd be not related to this, but have you ever heard of a video game called Red Dead Redemption? It's like set in Old West.
Yes.
Right. And you're a cowboy, and part of it is you do need to keep clean because else you get diseases and die. And I can't stand, we've spoken about it, I can't stand the Old West because I say, you know, I just think I'd get so dirty and then I'd just be dead. Like, not from disease. I just hate being dirty.
From crotch rot.
Just dead, yes.
You'd have crotch rot.
Hey, you want to talk about some bad seeds? That's happening down there.
Paulo and the bad seeds. Yes.
Yes. So, of course, my Google alerts go ballistic this week. Ballistic this weekend because of all my favorite. Everyone just popping off. All these people, 80s people. Why? Because of Glastonbury. If you don't know, it's just a big festival. It's just a big music festival that has changed over the years.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something. Because when you watch it now, I mean, it's got wall-to-wall coverage. It's very sanitized. It's very family-friendly compared to the kind of like pseudo Woodstock it probably was for a long time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's very commercially friendly.
But I mean, I just look at the size of those crowds on those videos, and it's like, why would you bother? You're so far from the stage. Like, I don't understand the appeal.
I mean, it gives me a chance to talk about the Foo Fighters who like kind of played on a Friday. They won a headline at all. They performed in front of 100,000 people.
They were a surprise act, hey. They came under a different name. Nobody knew they were going to be there.
Yeah,
everyone knew, but they weren't supposed to know.
Yeah. And they say that's like the biggest crowd. Even when they first played Glastonbury, they didn't play in front of like 100,000 people. It's just growing. It's just getting bigger. Like everyone's kind of like Elton John. They said this is the biggest crowd he's ever played in front of.
Yeah. And it's also the post-COVID thing where everyone's like, I need to get out there and be like in people's spit. You know?
Yes. I spent all this time like not wanting to be breathed on by people and have an armpit, wear an armpit as a hat. Let me go do it. So let's talk about some of our favorite 80s people. They were at Glastonbury, right? I'm going to do a slow build up to the big show, right? So firstly, Blondie performing at Glastonbury. The pyramid stage is the main stage. That's where like you want to be.
Yeah.
Blondie comes out. Did you see what she was what Debbie Harry was wearing?
Okay, let me preempt this with I have only watched one artist's videos from Glastonbury.
Okay.
Which I know we're going to talk about.
Yes.
I have watched
that was your homework.
Nothing else.
That's
I've watched
fine.
nothing else. Nothing.
That was your assignment.
So I have no idea what Blondie was wearing. No idea.
Okay, Dori, I've supplied you and all our listeners, you're going to get this, That 80 Show SA Facebook page. The Guardian was a great help for me because they kind of reviewed all the big artists and the big performances. So I've got a lot of the Guardian content, very highbrow. Okay, but there is a fantastic picture of Debbie Harry coming out wearing, I mean, of course, Debbie Harry is wearing a CBGB's t-shirt. I mean, of course, she's going to be doing that, right?
Right.
And she's got the most spectacular 80s visors. They're not even
Oh
sunglasses,
my
metallic
God. I can see it.
80s
I see the
visors,
picture.
right? And she
Yeah.
came out. And what it says about this performance, and I saw bits of it, is that you actually forget how many songs Blondie had, because you kind of just like default to Call Me, right?
Yes.
And you go, they had a lot of songs. And
Yep.
what Debbie Harry does comes out. She says, you know what? I get the cell phone songs out the way. You know, the songs that everyone's going to film. Okay, get them out the
Yes.
way. Get your experience. Now put your phone away and let's have a party, right? So she says, let's get those songs done. Okay, so
Right.
that's Debbie Harry and Blondie's approach. People love them. People love them. Doing well, going great. The next person I want to
Brilliant.
talk about, if you listened on the live stream, you would have got the Pretenders. And
Yeah.
why? Okay, Pretenders, it's fine. Okay, I don't hate a Pretender, but of course they bring Dave Grohl onto stage to play drums with them. I mean, what are we talking?
Oh.
Dori, you say this like you're surprised. You say this like you're surprised.
I'm surprised. I am surprised. I didn't know. Why would I know?
Okay, yes. So Chrissy Hines brings on Dave Grohl to play with him. Like, okay, cool. Chrissy
Is
Hines.
there some sort of relation between the two that I'm unaware of?
Dave Grohl was there.
Right.
That's why.
Okay. I just like the way
And-
you said it. It was like, well, of course she did.
Maybe there's a link because they're the Pretenders and Foo Fighters have a song called Pretender. Right. So maybe that's why.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
'Cause they got a song called The Pretender and they're the Pretenders. So
Right.
could be. Anyway, listen, don't try to pick this apart. It's friggin' Dave Grohl playing drums. When Dave Grohl plays drums, I
Yes.
mean, you got to. You just got to eat that all up. So Dave Grohl shows up. He showed up twice. He did 2 cameos because this performance got a lot of flack. People didn't like Guns N' Roses. They closed off Saturday night's main show. Did you see anything about them?
I didn't. I just saw a picture. I did see a picture of Axl. Well, I mean, I watched Guns N' Roses when they came out here, and they sound shit. I'm sorry. His voice is gone. It's like it was an experience.
And that was years ago.
I'm glad I went. It was quite a few years ago. What, 10 years ago now? Maybe? No, not even that many. Because my kid was in primary school. It would have been maybe 7, 8 years ago that they were here. I can't remember. And I got a friend bought me a ticket because she knew I was a fan. And I wasn't even that keen. And the thing is, like, he sounds shit. Like,
He
it
was
a great
struggling.
experience.
He was struggling, but if you think peak Guns N' Roses, I mean, he was brutalizing his voice. He did not have longevity in mind. There was no lemon and honey tea.
He probably was like, he's probably like, why am I still alive? Like, how have I not died yet? He has not aged well.
So kind of going, listen, if you guys like, aren't happy with the way I look or think I don't sound right, I wasn't even supposed to be here. So this is a bonus. Like, I don't give a shit. Slash was awesome. As always, Slash has a deal with the devil because he has not aged at all.
No, he looks the same completely.
I like to imagine he takes his hat off, but I like to, and he's bald, like completely bald. It's just
the hair is part of the hat.
The hair is part of the hat, right? I like to imagine that because there's got to be something. I didn't mention that the Pretenders, Paul McCartney, showed up on stage with them as well. Also, don't quite know the link there.
So that's kind of a thing with Glastonbury, right? Is that other people come on stage to like, have cameo appearances with your band or what? That's the thing.
And I sometimes wonder. So Dave Grohl's getting a lot of heat because Chris Martin from Coldplay was doing that at the last Glastonbury. And people are like, don't be another Chris Martin. But it's like, yeah, but the difference is that's Dave Grohl, the coolest person ever. And that's Chris Martin.
That's Chris Martin, the uncoolest person ever.
Right?
Exactly.
Here's the difference. But it does seem like a thing at Glastonbury because people are just like, can you imagine just backstage? They're just like, oh, hey, Dave Grohl. Like, we the Pretenders, and you've got a song called The Pretender, because that is definitely how they put it all together.
Dude, let it go. That is not what happened. Just let it go.
And there's like, we kind of like our drummer, but you're Dave Grohl. It's like, but I don't know any of your songs.
Our drummer
Doesn't
can
matter.
leave.
You can leave. We'll change them, right? So
hang on,
Guns N'
what was
Roses,
the thing with Guns N' Roses? Yes. What's the thing?
Dave Grohl comes and plays with him. He joins him on Paradise City. Come on, Dori. Come on. What are you talking about?
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a picture here of Dave Grohl and Duff, who I'm going to call Buff because he's looking good. And yeah, I mean, they actually look, they look good. Like, yes, they're older, but they look so good. Can't complain.
Dave Grohl can join any band and looks like he's part of that band. Okay. In case you don't know, I love Dave Grohl. Right? He's probably
pick that up.
The most love I have for a non-80s person is Dave Grohl. Right? So here's just having the best time.
Right. Yes.
Of course, who was the headliner? So obviously they close off the final performance on a Sunday is Elton John with what they say is his goodbye performance in the UK, because he's just announced his farewell tour. Hasn't he done one before? I'm sure.
Just like he hasn't died yet, but we thought he would for the last 5 years.
Right. So he comes up on stage.
This might not be the year, Paulo. This might not be it.
But listen, Elton John is definitely tapping out, right? Fantastic performance.
I mean, I think he's like, okay, I can rest soon. He's not making new songs.
No.
But I do regret not seeing him live when he was out here. I don't know why I missed it, but I missed it.
So what I say is that you and I were working, I think we were both at the radio station at the time. And we used to get tickets to the VIP box, right, that the radio station had. And it was at a venue called the Dome. Those who remember the Northgate Dome, then became the MTN Dome. There was a Ticket Pro Dome, which is the Dome, and now it's a car lot.
It's a car sales place, yeah.
Now they sell cars there, right? Before they just steal cars there, now they sell them, right? So it's this closed venue, and the VIP area that the radio station had hung over the stage. So you looked pretty much down onto the stage, but you could see down people.
I've been in that VIP area before. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we just have to throw around and be in the VIP area, right? It's a great view, great place to be. Dome acoustically sucked. I think there was like 2 square meters in the dome that if you stood, you got the best sound, but the rest of it just disappeared. It just never worked.
So bad. Yeah.
And we're talking quite a few years ago. I mean, we're probably talking, oh my word, 2007, 8, round about then when Elton John was here.
I can tell you for sure because my kid was born in 2007. And I remember, they were a little baby. And my husband and I went to go watch The Counting Crows at that VIP box in 2007. Wow, what a shit show that was. It was terrible. But so I remember being in that box in 2007 specifically. So when was Elton John here? Because I don't even remember when it was.
But the point is, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
On stage, just with a piano. And if I have to tell you that for 2 hours, his voice did not falter. It did not, and it wasn't a backing track. It was like he was singing. And for 2 hours, and he was in his 60s then, his voice did not, nothing. Phenomenal, right? So his set list at Glastonbury went through all the classics. 22 songs actually. No, they dropped one. They dropped one because there was a rumor that Britney Spears was going to appear on stage with him to sing their kind of cover, Hold Me Closer. He did all the classics. Pinball Wizard, The Bitch Is Back, Benny and the Jets, Daniel, Say Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. I guess that's why they call it the blues. Those are only the first 6 songs, Dori. First 6 songs. He did everything. Your Song, Candle in the Wind, Tiny Dancer, Crocodile Rock, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Cold Heart, Dua Lipa getting a bit of flack because she didn't show up. They're like, why wasn't Dua Lipa with her? Her bits were done. But nothing wrong. It's fine.
You know what would have been cool? You know what would have been cool if Tony Danza had showed up during Tiny Dancer.
That is such a niche joke. It's like,
come on.
No, I get it. I totally get it. But sometimes I say that and people just do not respond. And I go, you don't watch Friends. You do not watch Friends. Right.
I thought it's a joke that everyone knows. Okay, never mind.
No, you know why? So did I. But I recently made it, and I just got blank stares, and that's usual. I mean, it's if you've listened to the show, But it's such a niche joke. So of course, Dori, he ends with Rocket
Yes.
Man. I think it's going to be a long, long time, which is like I'm out. Right, extended outro.
Oh,
I'm done.
I think people
He
must
lifted
have
off.
cried.
Like in the movie Rocket Man, where he like lifts up off the stage and flies away off the piano.
Yeah.
No, Dori, save your tears for now.
Dear.
Because of course he did it the close of Glastonbury last Sunday the 25th, which would have been the birthday of who, Dori?
George Michael.
Now, of course, if Elton John's going on stage, he's got this little song called "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." Now, Dori.
Yes.
Could you tell? Maybe regale. Maybe people have forgotten who he duetted with on that song.
George Michael.
So I'm going to play it here. Here is a little clip. His little tribute to George Michael just before he plays "Don't Let the Sun Go Down."
It's a very special day today, and I wondered how I was going to approach it. One of Britain's most fantastic songwriters, singers, artists was George Michael. He was my friend, he was an inspiration, and today would have been his 60th birthday. So, I want to dedicate this song to his memory, and all the music that he left us with, which is so gorgeous, is for you, George.
Oh, Lord. Damn, I would have cried myself into a stupor if I'd been there.
It's 43 seconds, but it's but of course he's going to do it. Of course he is going to do George Michael, and massive George Michael comes up on all the screens. People go ballistic. They love it. It's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Countdown is on to the Wham documentary, by the way. We're within days now, within a week. But of course, that 80 show, everyone ends with Elton John. We're going to go, no. We've got to end with our guy. No, we've got to end with our guy. When it started popping up, I was like, got a WhatsApp group, Yumi, Celeb, Chart Savant, Barrett. And I was like, guys, you got to see what he is killing it. And typical Dori, I got no time. I can't watch this. I said, Dori, one thing you need to do for the show for this week, you got to watch what's going on here. You got to watch our man killing it. Can I hand over to you to just end off our Glastonbury roundup with our favorite 80s person? Well, our favorite 80s person that was at Glastonbury.
Yes. Okay. So, first of all, it was news to me that Rick Astley has never been at Glastonbury before. Never mind just playing. He's never played, but he had never been. I don't know if you saw that little interview. Yeah, he's never been. He tells a story.
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
He tells a story on UK radio about how he used to drop his daughter off at Glastonbury and then go fetch her. But he'd never actually been. So it was completely foreign to him. Yeah.
There's another vignette that you can find on the Glastonbury YouTube channel where they kind of interview all the artists. And it seems like they interview Rick Astley from the time he arrives at Glastonbury, and they follow him around a little bit. And he talks about, he goes, when I was at the peak of my fame, mid-80s, pop people did not go to Glastonbury. Glastonbury was
Glastonbury
punk.
was
It was
very
rock,
alternative.
It was edge. Very alternative.
Very alternative, yeah.
Stock Aitken Waterman.
There's no ways he would have played
artists,
there,
no, not playing there.
Definitely not.
That he didn't even go. So he said that he was a complete Glastonbury virgin. And he's like, I'm just going to go with whatever happens. So in the same vignette, I'm actually going to put it up on that 80 Show Facebook page. He talks about going look, everything's set up. Everyone knows what they're going to play. We kind of got the set list. But I'm just going to go with whatever happens because I'm just going to enjoy it. I might never come back here. This is just what I'm going to do. A funny little bit. He's walking. Dori, did you see his suit? Do you maybe want to describe his suit that he was wearing?
I mean, would we call it salmon, maybe? A
Very
salmon
salmon.
suit? Very
Very
salmon.
salmon.
I was looking at it going, what is that color?
Mm.
Salmon is the color.
It
And
is salmon.
he pulls it off. He really does. I mean, if I could have, I
course he
would have
does.
pulled it off. But you know,
A lot of people were arrested at Glastonbury for streaking, Dori. It is an
Yeah.
offense. It is an offense.
It's
Although
offense,
Rick Astley would have been
yes.
the one naked. Now, I just want to say to
Yes.
people, right? Of course, we know what Rick Astley looks like now. We're up to date, whatever. You may only have him in your head from being Rickrolled, right? You go, oh, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Never going to give you up guy.
No, he looks the same
Whereas-
though. He looks exactly the same.
No.
No, he looks better now. He looks
better. He does. He was kind of scrawny, pasty. His hair was very red. He's kind of like, he's definitely got a sunbed. Definitely. And his hair is chestnutty. Chestnutty hair.
Yeah.
Right? It's not red anymore.
I mean,
it's matured.
Well, I mean, chances are it's a dye job. Maybe he is graying, considering his age.
Good. Yes.
You know, he
Quite
could be
right.
graying. Although,
Quite right.
redheads don't go grey. Do you know
They
that?
don't. No, they don't go grey. They go chestnutty. They go chestnut.
So that's probably his natural color.
Yeah. I'd imagine. Listen, whatever it is, his hair is phenomenal.
I was interested to watch him perform because remember when, well, you weren't there, but remember I've told you many times about when he was here for the Rewind concert.
Mm.
And he was very pervy on the stage. He kept like rubbing his inner leg and like making weird motions with his hips. And that was when I realized, oh my God, he's actually quite hot. Because before that, I had not thought of him that way at all.
Sure. And also, you know, I mean, how hot can someone look when they're wearing beige pleated chinos? You know, he's wearing like a more fitted pant.
Yes. So
he's got
but
this
he didn't do that
lovely-
at all at Glastonbury. He was very well behaved.
Very well behaved. You got this lovely salmon suit on that little vignette video of telling you he's walking like onto stage. They catch him as he's walking on stage. He goes, 2 things I never leave the house with, or 2 things that I always have with me: security and a hairdryer. He's got a hairdryer. He's got a hairdryer with, right?
Wow. That hair doesn't make itself.
So he goes on stage. His dances that pop up are fantastic. I don't know where they
Amazing.
pulled these ladies out of.
Amazing.
They are phenomenal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're pulled out of the 1980s, but they were young in the 80s, and when they were brought to like now, they aged as they would have. So they weren't,
Yes.
you know, they were inappropriate.
Yeah, they weren't
dressed.
young. No.
No, not at all. But having a grand old time. He sings Never Gonna Give You Up. He does the classics. He lets the crowd sing Never Gonna Give You Up.
But the best part of that
Yes.
was the whole line of security doing the dance.
Oh my God, that was fantastic.
They had obviously
so
rehearsed
cringe.
that.
It was
They
so
had obviously
cringe,
rehearsed it.
but it
And I was
lovely.
thinking, did Rick instigate that or did they instigate that? Did the dancers instigate that?
You know
How
what the
did that
thing I
happen?
love though? You know what the thing I love though is to just show you how Glastonbury's changed is that the state of that security, they're not keeping anyone off the stage. I mean, they were,
The security are from the 80s as well.
you know, I mean, they
Yes.
are from all walks of society. They are not bringing you down. But it's because who's going to bum rush Rick Astley other than to rip off his salmon suit, right?
Well, just like
Yes.
I wasn't there. But you know what struck me? Okay, well, you can finish and then I'm going to tell you what struck me.
Well, it's the thing you talk about is that he had a wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
He had a wood.
Oh.
He complained that the trousers of his suit here is described as blush pink.
Blush
They describe
pink.
as blush pink,
okay.
yes. All I can say, Glastonbury, is I'm sorry for wearing the wrong trousers because his pants kept getting caught in the kick drum pedal.
Oh.
Could have ripped off his pants, you know? So that's the final thing to say on his pants. But then we said earlier that Rick Astley's just going to throw himself into Glastonbury. Whatever happens, happens. And oh boy, does it just start happening. Right? He just starts popping up everywhere.
Yeah. But you know what struck me about the Never Gonna Give You Up video is the people in the audience. The people in the audience were probably not necessarily Rick Astley fans. In fact, some of them looked like metalheads, punk type people, the type who you would have expected at Glastonbury in the 90s. you know? So not your typical pop fan. But I think maybe Rick has like traversed that barrier now, because people know that he has been on stage with Dave Grohl. He has done these. He has shown that his range is beyond silly pop. Beyond.
So that's
way
what I
beyond.
said to you, right? That's what I said to you, right? We are now living in Rick Astley's world, because he very strategically invented the Rick roll so that he could introduce himself to a new audience. Then that viral video pops up.
It? Okay.
It comes from him. If you trace that back, original IP address is him.
Okay.
He then puts out this viral video of him singing with the Foo Fighters. He sings, go find that.
Oh.
We've posted on that 80 show. Him with the Foo Fighters, he sings a rock version of Never Gonna Give You Up, right?
Right.
With the Foo Fighters. Yeah. Remember that one? And it apparently says he was trashed. You're so drunk. He has a shot of Jägermeister before every performance. I found out it was a vignette. Okay. So strategically, he's like, okay, I'm cool. I'm going to show up. I'm at Glastonbury. During his set, right? So he sings Together Forever. He, of course, sings Never Gonna Give You Up. He, of course, sings Whenever You Need Somebody. He also sang As It Was, Harry Styles' song.
Yes.
He sang that,
which is the only Harry Styles song I like.
Because it's quite 80s-ish. He
then
gets on the drum kit. As I said, he was on the drum kit playing drums on Highway to Hell, the AC/DC song. What?
Yeah.
Rick Astley playing AC/DC. We've seen him sing ABBA. We've seen him do it all. Okay. So that's not all. Because then he shows up the next day singing a freaking Smith song, Dori.
Yes.
Morrissey is turning in his grave at Rick Astley singing his song.
No. Morrissey isn't in his grave. That's besides the point.
That's what I'm saying. Wherever he is, he's turning.
Yes. No. I don't think so, because Morrissey's been cancelled. And this is the only way that the Smiths music can live on, because everybody hates Morrissey now. He has done an about turn on his politics. It's a long story. Can we just please, before we talk about him singing the Smith song, can we mention his beautiful turquoise suit that he was wearing for that?
Of course. Of course he shows up in a turquoise suit, Dori, because it's Rick Astley's world.
Beautiful.
He's full of pastel, because he's like, I'm going to lean into it. He didn't sing, obviously, the Smith song with the Smiths. He sang it with the Blossoms. But that's the only way we're going to get Smiths music out there.
Which he has done before.
He has done.
From Pasty Rick to Pastel Rick.
And I think that's what we can leave it on. I think that wraps up our Glastonbury coverage.
Just go and watch all the Rick Astley. Just go to YouTube and type Rick Astley Glastonbury and watch all the things.
By the way, there is major clamor for him to headline next year, to be the main act. And they've titled it better than I did, because they've called it Astonbury.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Rick Astonbury.
Rick Astonbury. Love it. So if Rick Astley headlines Glastonbury, do we go? Nah, that's too much. It'll rain.
Nothing's going to get me there. I'm sorry.
It's going to rain. It's going to get so gross.
You know it's going to rain.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing it. No matter how sanitized it gets, it'll not be enough for me to poop in a bucket again. So
what if you get like VIP with like, if they have like a luxury tent and all those things? I don't know how VIP is at Glastonbury.
There's been like crazy videos of people, like the tents they set up and the stuff.
Did you see the tent with the proper double bed in it?
Yes,
that somebody had built. Yeah, nuts. Totally
nuts. Guaranteed that guy did not spend a second in there. He did not spend a second. He was out there chasing down Rick Astley. Partying. Right. So from Glastonbury to movie and film recommendations, I have something based in the 80s, an 80s story, but made recently. But Dori, what do you have for us this week?
I have something made in the 80s, but based in the 60s. And I had totally forgotten about it. It's a TV series. I totally forgotten it existed. I mentioned to my husband last night, oh my God, I need a movie for my show. Because, you know me, I leave everything to the last minute. And he went, do you remember that show? And I was like, oh my God, I'd totally forgotten about it. And the thing is, we both were like, we love that show. We loved that show in the 80s. Oh, what a great show. And then we started looking up clips on YouTube. And boy, we were like, how did we watch this shit? It was so bad. So I don't know if this is a recommendation. Let's call it a reminder.
They very
Paulo,
seldom are. They very seldom are.
No. Last week mine was definitely a recommendation.
Okay.
But do you remember a series called Rags to Riches?
Oh, yes. I'm
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
you've totally forgotten it. But as I said it all came flooding back like a nightmare. But
Yes.
I bet you at the time you enjoyed it. I bet you.
I can't remember it well.
Okay, I'm going to remind you. I'm going to read from the Wikipedia page because there's really not a lot to say about this. But let me read. Okay. Rags to Riches is an American musical comedy drama. I had forgotten this, Paula. I had forgotten that in every episode, people sang and danced. I had forgotten that completely. It was wiped from my memory.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Musical comedy drama that was broadcast on NBC for 2 seasons from March 1987 to January 1988. Set in the 1960s, the series tells the story of Nick Foley, a self-made millionaire who adopts 6 orphan girls.
Yes.
Each episode included musical scenes of hit songs from the era performed by the girls, integrated into the plot, with the lyrics modified to provide commentary on the storyline.
I mean, so
I don't need to say much more. I really don't. Okay.
the Nick Foley character, right? He was played by a guy called Joe Bologna.
Joseph. Yes, exactly.
With one of the most recognizable 80s faces.
Yes.
He's one of those perfect actors that you've seen him a lot, but you have no idea who he is, and you never remember him from other stuff you've seen him.
He hasn't done a lot. This was his Rags to Riches, because after that, he's been in like one episode of this show, one episode of that show. He hasn't done a lot. He's done some voices for animated stuff. He really faded into obscurity after that. Although, as you said, completely recognizable.
Great name. Yeah, he'd always show up in your shows, like he'd be in A-Team, or he'd be like in Doogie Howser, or he'd just always be there. But like, I don't know that guy's. But I know.
No, honestly, I mean, he even was in an episode. I actually was looking through it and I thought, oh my God, I need to point out that he was in an episode of, give me a second here. I'm going to get it. No, it's not him. It's not him I'm thinking of. It's one of the girls was in an episode of something that will ring for you. Will ring into something. But
thanks, Dori. That makes it clear. One of the people wasn't something that I would have seen. Thank you. I know exactly what you're talking about. So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I think you just kind of glossed through the premise of the show very quickly, right?
Yes.
Because this is how our 80s brains worked. We didn't stop to pause for 1 second. Hold on a second. I'm reading on Wikipedia. Here was a guy, Joe Bologna, was a self-made millionaire who, to convince people that he wasn't a playboy, he adopts 6 teenage girls to live with him in his Bel Air mansion. Isn't that why we cancelled Ezra Miller? What is going on?
So this is exactly what my husband said. My husband said it's a show that would never get made today because a single man adopting 6 teenage girls, it's a whole different story today.
This is now a Netflix true crime series. This is not a rompy comedy. And it says that initially he did it to keep a business deal because people didn't want to do business with him because they thought, no, you're an irrational playboy.
Exactly.
He's going to get the deal and ditch the girls.
Exactly. So okay. So a lot of the episodes are on YouTube. I started watching the first episode, which is called Pilot, by the way. If you want to watch it, Rags to Riches Pilot on YouTube. First of all, his like colleague is played by a very young Bill Maher, which is very weird to watch because you immediately recognize him as Bill Maher, but he's not being Bill Maher. No, he looks really young. So it's very weird. Anyway, so he's desperately trying to get this deal and the guy doesn't want to make the deal because he's like, you're too much of a playboy. You're not a serious person. And then Bill Maher's character comes up with this idea. He sees in the newspaper the story about this orphanage that is closing down. And there's 6 girls left at the orphanage and they're very close and they don't want to be separated. They're going to be separated if they get adopted at this point because the orphanage is closing. And what's going to happen to them? And he's like, adopt these girls. Then the guy will do the business deal with you. And for some reason, that's exactly what happens. But the plan was not to keep the girls long term. And of course, as the show goes on, he falls in love with them as a father figure. Only as a father figure. In fact, after the first episode, there's only 5 girls. One of the girls drops out somehow of the show, and they like say, "Oh, she found her real mother, and she went off. Oh, they found her real mother." So all of a sudden, it's 5 girls. I don't know what happened to that particular girl. So it's literally only 6 girls in the first episode, and then from then on, it's 5. And one of them is very young, not so much a teenager, more a child. But the rest are. I mean, and they don't even, and you know how it is, they don't look like teenagers. They probably weren't teenagers in real life. But, you know, they always had these really sweet, innocent plot lines, Paulo. So I'm going to tell
I'd
you
imagine
to just,
that would.
you know, yeah.
I'm going to
read you some.
Oh, yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay. So we know the first story was really about him adopting them. But then we've got episode 2. Nick enters Rose to participate in a debutante ball. Rose then falls for Matthew, a rich kid who is only dating her for a one-time sexual fling. So I'm thinking this has got like a made-for-TV PSA type vibe where it's like, no, but this is what you can learn from these episodes. Don't be a sexually active teenager because things will happen. Episode 3, the girls win a talent show at their favorite malt shop. Remember, this is the 60s, so malt shops are a thing. However, when Marva goes to claim the trophy, she spies the owner being hectored. What does that mean? What does being hectored mean? Anyway,
being ogled,
a greedy land developer.
Being ogled by Hector, of course.
No,
it was obviously
being
someone they called
by
Hector.
A greedy land developer into selling his property. Oh, being bullied, obviously.
Sure.
Another episode, Marva has plans to buy a food truck from Skip and Rusty, 2 men leaving the sandwich making business. I mean, these plots are not amazing. I mean, and this is why the show did not last. It did get cancelled, but the reason it got cancelled is it actually got moved into a new time slot to make way for Family Ties. And when Family Ties took over the time slot, people watched that, and the viewership for the show went down, so they had to cancel it.
Yeah,
so,
but you know what? You're dead in the water. Questionable guy living with 6 teenage girls in his mansion, or wholesome American family. What are we going to choose? Any reason? Because I'm a bit confused here. You say it was in the 80s, set in the 60s. I'm seeing a lot of photos where the girls are dressed very 80s. I imagine that's like stuff.
Exactly.
Any reason it was set in the 60s?
I don't know. That was the story. Whoever wrote it, that was the story. Because if you look at the last episode of season 2, which is when it was cancelled, listen to this. Diane agrees to have a late Sweet 16 birthday party until the Cuban Missile Crisis ruins the plans. Fearing the worst in relation to the crisis, Nick installs a fallout shelter. That is the description of the final episode. So
and hilarity
obviously the writers... Yes. And shenanigans ensue.
Indeed.
But that's another point that my husband made, is that even though it's set in the 60s, it looks like the 80s. And a lot of TV shows that were made in the 80s but set in the 60s fell into that trap, where it's like, it is the 60s, but you're using current wardrobe, you're using current hair. Like, you're not really trying, basically. That's exactly the show. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a miss then, Dori. Gonna give that
it's a reminder. It's a reminder, and you know,
misses a miss.
If you want to laugh, skim through some on YouTube.
No, I got a feeling that you'll be guilty by association. Just you'll be an accomplice in his kidnapping scheme.
To something dodge. Yeah,
I will stay away from that. So last week, in your movie recommendation, you brought us a movie about a mixtape. But it is a mixtape set predominantly in the 90s. You try to like backtrack and talk about like some 80s Japanese punk band.
No, a large amount of the soundtrack was from the 80s.
I wasn't buying it, Dori. I wasn't buying it.
Really?
No, but it's fine. So this week I'm carrying on your theme, but not quite completing the loop. So it is about mixtapes. Okay.
Okay.
It is set in the 80s, but it was made recently. and it's a true story, right? So
Okay.
have you, did you ever in school, did anyone ever sell their mixtapes?
Sell them? No.
No one ever sold mixtapes.
We would borrow them to make copies.
Okay. So it was a thing, right?
Right.
So this story, and it's a true story, has actually really happened, is set in Italy, mid-80s. And there are three brothers. And one of them, and they're kind of like their dad's a bit of a scam artist. He sells counterfeit whiskey at the bus station, but it's not, he puts tea in whiskey bottles, has a real whiskey bottle, lets people sample it, and then he sells them the box of tea, right? So they're the three brothers, they're rapscallions, but one of them, they're not criminals, but they just con artists. It's set in Naples, predominantly in Italy. Now, if you know Italy, you know that the Neapolitans are kind of, for a long time, ostracized by the rest of Italy. There's like quite a lot of racism towards them. It's kind of, we're not seen as Italians, and therefore they're very, they're just very streetwise. The worst, the Camorra, the crime family, comes from Naples. And everybody there's kind of involved in a scheme, that everyone's doing something, right? So at the time, people are like running a trade in illegal cigarettes and counterfeit cigarettes, right? That they're getting from Morocco and then they're selling. And that's just what everyone does. Like, everyone just does something. And you have this boy, his name Enrico, but later goes by the name Eri, who he wants to be a DJ. And his dream is to be a DJ, and he just can't get into any of the clubs because he's not cool enough. So he starts making mixtapes for people in his neighborhood. And the movie's called Mixed by Eri. Okay. It's currently on Netflix.
My God. Oh my God. So when my husband told me to watch Mixtape on Netflix, he meant for me to watch that.
Oh, you're kidding.
Okay. Yes. And then I watched Mixtape and I was like, weird that you would have liked that because it's not your vibe. And he was like, no, you watched the wrong thing. So that is next on my list. It is actually on my list. And he said I would love it. So it is on my list. I will watch it.
You will love it. So I'm going to try not to, well, listen, it's a true story.
Spoilers.
Right?
Yes.
I'm going to try not to give many spoilers, right? So what they do, and this is all the stuff from the trailer. So he starts making these mixtapes. They get very popular. His brother, who's kind of like got a little bit more of the business savvy, going, listen, I'm running these counterfeit cigarettes, but through the same network, let's start distributing your mixtapes, right? And we can start running them around Italy. It sounds like the biggest load of nonsense, but it is all true. They became the biggest record company in Italy from selling counterfeit tapes, because there was no real copyright law, because there was no technology. There was, up until you got the cassette tape, there was no way to copy music, but suddenly now you could copy it. So they just ran these mixtapes. In a Guardian article, so listen, the whole thing happens as it happens, whatever. I'll leave that for you to discover. In a Guardian article, the main character, Enrico Frasetti, he says that I was the Spotify of my day, because what he'd do is, based on the mixtape that you wanted, he would recommend 2 other songs that you just may like. So if you liked Spandau Ballet,
Spotify, like a human Spotify, amazing.
Yeah. If you liked Spandau Ballet and wanted Spandau Ballet, he'd add like 2 Human League songs to the end of it, because I think you might like Human League, right? So, he was like a curator. He became a cultural phenomenon in Italy that so many artists reference him of the time. They reference him to go, look, I wasn't necessarily making money from the tapes because he was making the money, counterfeit, but I was popular because of him. So people were coming to my shows, people were requesting my song on radio. It wasn't necessarily seeing it in sales, but if it wasn't for him getting my music out there, I wouldn't have become popular, you know?
Yeah.
So there was even a secondary market of counterfeits of his counterfeits. So they were guys, and just typical, this is Naples, right? It goes, well, let's just make counterfeits of the counterfeits. And there was a market of original counterfeits of his tapes, right? So it involves everything. There is mafia. It's all there. Okay. It's a really
cool.
It's an outrageous story. It is all true. Soundtrack is, relax, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Jump for My Love, It's Tricky, Kids in America, Kim Wilde's on there, Euro the Mixer on there, Visage is on there. A shitload of Italo disco is on there, which is fantastic.
Oh, no wonder you love it. Okay, yes.
I got in on the Italo disco. But it is a true story, but it's not done in a very hectic way. It's very lighthearted. They weren't technically really doing anything wrong because only afterwards did they actually start making laws to make what they were doing illegal. But up till then, there wasn't really, like I said, there was no technology to actually do this. So why have the laws?
They started making that piracy is killing music video thing that would always play.
Exactly. And they were like, what the hell's a pirate? Why are we being called pirates?
Yeah.
But I'm going to I have to give you a bit of advice on it. So it's not in English. It's an Italian movie.
I will watch it with subtitles.
In the Italian.
I do not watch dubbed. I do not watch dubbed. I can't bear it.
Don't do it. Because firstly,
I never watch anything dubbed.
By mistake, I had it undubbed. And there was, in the beginning, it's when they're a group of kids. And there is a boy who's evidently 15 years old who sounds like a 75-year-old man. He's just been dubbed. Okay. So just
okay. Well, now I want to watch that just to hear that, but then I will watch the whole thing properly.
You know why? Because it's not just Italian; it's Neapolitan. So there are ways that they say things. The drama. Every time they're talking to you, they're hustling. It's just that real sense of hustle and I've got to finish saying what I'm saying, or else I may not eat tonight. Is very evident when you watch it in Italian. So you have to watch it in Italian. I know it's hard these days because we're so distracted. We look at our phones.
Oh no, dude! I never watch dubbed. I can't. I can't bear the non-syncing of the mouths when they speak. I literally hate it. So I always watch subtitles.
You miss so much though. You miss you just miss what it's about. It's quite rude. I mean, I remember Money Heist, Cash Heist, Money Heist, the ones where they robbed the bank. That was in Spanish.
Yeah.
And it's how can you watch it in English? It's so rich in Spanish. It's just got to do it.
I haven't watched that one yet, but I would definitely not watch it in English.
Okay, so you got to watch yourself.
I will definitely get to that. I will get to that and I'll give you feedback. And
then there's a very cool thing because somebody on SoundCloud has put all the mixed by Airy. There's a whole market now. So having a mixed by Airy original tape, they go for €200 on eBay. Okay. And somebody who had his collection of tapes has digitized them and started to put them on SoundCloud. So you can go and listen. He's a guy. People love him. People love him. The best DJ you never heard of. So that's my recommendation. Mixed by Airy.
Awesome.
And then Dori recommends the Jeffrey Epstein or the Harvey one of them. One of the perverts stories. There's so many perverts. I can't even.
Jeffrey Epstein of TV from the 80s.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Oh,
no, honestly,
I can't believe that.
I mean, certain things have dated. That is one of them. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah. And hey, we love old shit on the show, but that is a little bit too much for us. Listen, I want to wrap up speaking about offensive songs of the 80s. Okay, a couple of we've spoken about them before. I got a list here from Best Life, talking about offensive songs of the 80s. Number one they have here is "Don't Stand So Close to Me" by the Police. It would have you thinking, oh, it's because you stink. I didn't know this.
Nope. Did you not know what it was about?
Young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy. This girl is half his age. It it literally says that. It's terrible.
Oh no, I mean, and I mean, I think Sting has been asked about it since, and I don't think he can even defend it. It's just nope.
So it's about a teacher having a relationship with his with a student. Next one up is Aerosmith, "Dude Looks Like a Lady," and that comes from the story of Steve Tyler mistaking Vince Neil for a woman because of his long hair.
I mean, I think that's funny. I think that's funny.
That is funny.
Come on,
it is funny.
Come on.
So people find that offensive.
I just don't like that song. I hate it. I've always hated it.
I also don't like it. "Money for Nothing" by Dire Straits.
Oh, because of the F word.
Yeah, because of the F word. I mean, come on.
It's got the F word in it. Yeah.
Are we getting
no, not come on. I mean, that word is just no longer acceptable. It was
that
thrown
F word.
Everywhere.
Sorry. That F
not
word.
Not the swearing F word. The other F word. And I mean, the other F word. If you don't know, listen to the lyrics of "Money for Nothing." But I mean, it was just very acceptably acceptable. Obviously, they change it if they perform it now. but the original is still there. And so, they just kind of, the thing is, everybody used that word freely everywhere in the 80s. It was just a thing. And it wasn't seen as a problem in the 80s. So you kind of got to just give it the context,
They used it in Breakfast Club.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, many movies that we love have used that word. Freely.
So the other one is, we spoke about this turning Japanese by the Vapors.
Yes, we have spoken about it.
So obviously the band says it's not about making Japanese faces, but in their music video, they definitely make Japanese, they do that.
Exactly. They do. So we don't believe you.
I still go with the story that I heard is that it's about pleasuring yourself, because that's what I heard this is about. Maybe it makes it less offensive.
Makes sense.
I don't know. And then, of course, this one, we've spoken about it before, is Do They Know It's Christmas by Band Aid, which is just not offensive. It's just, it just doesn't understand. It's never looked at a map, I think.
Well, I mean, it's just like when I heard it in the 80s, I didn't think, wow, these lyrics are insensitive. Only when you get older and like when you look back, you go, that is a stupid song. Like what especially
we're talking
because
about,
it is a charity song. It's a charity song, and you're being so.
There won't be snow in Africa this Christmas time. There never is. There is very little snow. The greatest gift they'll get this year is life. When nothing ever grows, nor rain nor rivers flow, do they know it's Christmas time at all? And well, tonight, thank God, it's them instead of you. That's the thing that always got me.
That line. And I would sing along to it in the 80s, and I didn't care. But yeah.
And of course,
it's crazy.
Bono singing it doesn't help anyone. It just does not help when Bono belts that out. So, yeah,
that sucks. I mean, I wonder what Bob Geldof was thinking. It's actually quite crazy.
Yeah, so those are some offensive songs from the 80s. Yeah, they're pretty offensive. They suck. So we don't want to be talking about that. So this has been that 80s show, Glastonbury special. It was Rick Astley special.
It really was.
Maybe reframe that. Dori will not be going to see Rick Astley no matter what he wears or does not wear to Glastonbury. Maybe I'll
see him anywhere else. I'll see him in a small club easily. I'll see him in another venue, but not Glastonbury, no.
Rick Astley's the best.
Ship
Who would have thought?
Has sailed.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that little young boy looking like Tintin would have crawled so deep into our hearts in his little
taken
lush
over the
pink
world.
Suit. It was all Rick Roll. He originated Rick Roll. It originated from his little Beats laboratory.
Stop spreading rumors. Oh, speaking of, did you listen to the Smartless episode where they interviewed Depeche Mode?
No, I have not. I started. I haven't finished it.
Okay. Just letting you know that there's a Smartless episode where they interviewed Depeche Mode. I actually didn't find it amazing. I found it slightly boring compared to the Simon Le Bon one.
Do you want to stop being? Do you want to stop being
cool.
friends? Do you want to stop being friends?
What?
I don't like Smartless. I think it is considering the podcast that I host and considering all podcasts ever, it is very self-involved.
Okay.
Thanks for joining me, Dori. Goodbye.
Bye.